Tales by Lazarus. Comment your thoughts and subscribe to my channel. In the courtyard of a sprawling duplex with a high iron gate and cream-painted walls, a young woman stood in silence. She was drenched to the bone, but she did not flinch. Her name was Annabel Chikwa, a 20-year-old Nigerian girl with eyes that carried centuries of ancestral resilience. Her maid uniform clung to her skin. In one hand she held a worn-out book of international relations, in the other, a nylon file with crinkled documents. Behind her, the balcony door swung open, and the sharp voice of Madame Gloria Omatoso, a wealthy Lagos businesswoman in her late 40s, shattered the calm like broken glass. "Leave this house, Annabel. I said get out now. You think I don't know you think you're better than us." Inside that house, a house she had swept, scrubbed, and polished for 3 years, her name was a curse. Outside, in the rain, it was becoming a name the world would remember. The Omatoso residence stood proud in Lekki Phase 1, tall gates, tinted windows, and a polished interlocked driveway that led nowhere close to happiness. On the outside, it was a mansion. Inside, it was a cage made of marble and pride. Annabel, born in Umuahia, Abia State, had come to Lagos at age 17 after her mother died of untreated appendicitis. Her uncle in Lagos had promised her a job and a roof. What she got was a maid's uniform, a single iron bed in the boys' quarters, and a life of silence. She learned to be invisible. She cleaned before anyone woke. She mopped after they slept. She served food she never tasted. She heard things no one thought she could understand about million naira contracts, abortions, private school scandals, and secret affairs. She watched as the daughters of Madame Gloria, Vanessa, 21, and Sandra, 19, both Nigerian, lived like untouchable queens. They did not attend to chores. They barely studied. Yet, they mocked her for trying to learn. "Auntie Maid," Sandra once sneered, "so you want to do masters from Mop University, ABI?" Annabel smiled. She had taught herself to smile at mockery. It gave her strength. She had found an old WAEC textbook in the store one day while sweeping and began secretly studying it at night. Her determination wasn't fueled by dreams, it was powered by pain. The war was silent, but it was fierce. It wasn't fought with fists, but with insults, eye rolls, and humiliation. Madame Gloria rarely spoke to Annabel unless it was to command. Her presence was tolerated, not acknowledged. Her existence was like the ceiling fan, only noticed when it stopped working. Annabel had one ally in the house, the elderly driver, Mr. Obinna, a 56-year-old Nigerian man who had been with the family for years. "Keep reading, my child," he once told her while driving her to the market. "Books will take you where mops cannot." He would sneak her old newspapers, donate recharge cards so she could browse past UTME questions, and even gave her 2,000 Nigerian nairas to register for a local evening adult education class every Tuesday and Thursday. Annabel studied in silence, always alert for Vanessa or Sandra's footsteps. In one of her midnight study sessions, she stumbled upon an NGO website, African Scholars Initiative, offering scholarships for underprivileged African girls. It was almost too good to be true. The requirements were steep: essay writing, recommendation letters, TOEFL, and proof of hardship. She took a deep breath and began. Over several nights, she handwrote and rewrote her 800-word essay on the value of education in a divided world. She used torchlight under her blanket and sneaked to the cyber cafe on Sunday afternoons when the family was at church. The essay poured from her like a confession. "I am not writing this because I am poor. I am writing this because I believe I was born for more." She applied with trembling hands. 3 weeks later, she was washing the madam's car when her small Nokia phone vibrated. The screen was cracked, but the sender was clear. African Scholars Initiative, application status. She opened it slowly, heart pounding like a drum. "Dear Miss Annabel Chikwa, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as one of our 2025 international scholars." Her hands shook. Her breath caught. Her eyes blurred. Full scholarship to the University of Birmingham. All expenses covered. She wanted to scream but couldn't. "Not here. Not now. She walked inside, placed the car sponge back in the bucket, and continued working, except now, every movement carried purpose. That night, she approached Madame Gloria as she watched Telemundo. "Ma, I would like to speak to you. I got a scholarship." Gloria turned, laughed dryly, then slowly stood. "You? A scholarship? To do what? Sweep abroad? Are you mad? You're trying to disgrace me, ABI? What will people say?" Vanessa, holding a wine glass, added. Wait, so maid wants to fly out while I'm still waiting for UK visa. Oh moo. Sandra filmed her reaction and whispered to her sister, "Let's post this on TikTok. It'll go viral." They laughed. But that laughter died 2 days later when the organization called to verify Annabelle's employment. They informed Madame Gloria that Annabelle's flight, visa, passport, and even living allowance would be handled. Suddenly, no one was laughing. While Annabelle's light rose, the Omatoso daughters were drowning in their own mess. Vanessa had plagiarized her final year thesis. The university flagged it, and she faced expulsion. Sandra had stopped attending lectures and was dating a 42-year-old married man who abandoned her when she became pregnant. Worse, both girls discovered they were pregnant, within the same month, and from men who refused to acknowledge them. The Omatoso mansion became a war zone. Shouting. Crying. Broken dishes. Doctor's visits. Threats of abortion. Gloria lost weight. Her business suffered. Her face aged 10 years. And Annabelle, the girl they once mocked, was preparing to leave. The sky on the day of her departure was a pale grey, as if the city was holding its breath. Lagos traffic hummed faintly in the background, but within the Omatoso compound, the air was thick with silence. Annabelle stood at the gate with her single Ghana must-go bag, her official documents folded neatly in a plastic file inside. She had no suitcase. No fancy luggage. Just a heart full of peace, and a dream that refused to die. She had written a farewell letter to Madame Gloria the night before, a short, polite note thanking her for the opportunity to work and for the roof over her head, even though it came with pain. But Madame Gloria hadn't responded. No one came out to see her off. No one, except Mr. Obinna, the driver. "Let me take you, my daughter," he said softly, placing the bag in the car. "You will return to this country shining. Let them see what a true daughter of Nigeria can become." Annabelle hugged him, tears stinging her eyes. She whispered, "Thank you for treating me like a human being." As the gate opened and the car rolled into the streets of Lagos, the wind kissed her cheeks. She looked back one last time, not with sadness, but with resolve. At the airport, Annabelle moved quietly through the terminals. She clutched her passport like it was made of glass, afraid it would disappear at any moment. Everything was foreign, the polished floors, the tall electronic signs, the people pulling suitcases with one hand and balancing cappuccinos in the other. She'd never even flown before. Yet here she was, about to board a flight to the United Kingdom. She passed through immigration, each step like a heartbeat. When the officer stamped her passport, she inhaled deeply. Her life before that moment had been about survival. What came next would be about purpose. On the plane, she took a window seat and watched as Lagos disappeared beneath the clouds. She didn't cry. She smiled. Because for the first time, no one could shout her name in anger. No one could send her to clean the bathroom. She was no longer the maid. She was now a student. A scholar. A symbol of impossible things coming to life. The University of Birmingham was nothing like she had imagined, it was even better. The air was cold and dry. The streets were orderly, and everyone minded their business. She missed the noise of Lagos, the music on every corner, the aroma of roadside suya. But she didn't miss the shame. Her accommodation was small but clean. She had her own bed, her own desk, and a lamp that worked all night. For someone who once studied by torchlight, it felt like heaven. Classes were difficult. The British accent was harder to understand than she'd expected. Lecturers spoke fast, and students used big words. But Annabelle didn't quit. She downloaded every lecture, sat at the front, asked questions, and took notes like her life depended on it, because it did. Other students found her strange at first. Quiet, intense, always in the library. But slowly, she made friends, people who didn't care where she came from, only where she was going. A Kenyan girl named Njoki became her closest friend. Together, they studied, shared late-night noodles, and encouraged each other to keep going. Back in Lagos, the Omatoso house was changing, not in comfort, but in crisis. Vanessa had been expelled for academic dishonesty. Sandra had quietly dropped out after her second trimester. Neither girl could go out without hearing whispers. Even Gloria had begun avoiding church. The gossip was everywhere. See the woman that used to boast about raising classy girls, now one has 2 abortions and the other doesn't know her baby's father. The mansion that once radiated pride was now filled with blame and regret. The daughters no longer wore designer clothes to impress. They wore oversized shirts to hide shame. Gloria's business declined. Her clients found her cold, unstable, and difficult to work with. And in the stillness of her living room, she often wondered how the maid she once abused was now the voice of hope for others. One evening, as she scrolled on Instagram, a video appeared on her feed. Movie camera former maid turned scholar, Annabelle Chaiku speaks on stage in the UK. She clicked it. There Annabelle stood, confident, poised, eyes bright behind clear glasses. Her voice was soft but commanding. I cleaned toilets for people who believed I would never be anything. I folded their clothes while dreaming of lecture halls. I knew what it meant to eat last, or not at all. But I also knew something else, that pain can either break you or build you. I chose to build. The crowd clapped thunderously. Gloria stared at the screen, stunned. The girl who used to mop her staircase had become a global example. A woman of substance. She looked away, her eyes suddenly wet. Months passed. Annabelle's name grew. She was awarded Outstanding African Student of the Year. Her essay on diplomacy from the margins was published in a UK academic journal. Her foundation, the Chaiku Foundation for Girl Education, launched quietly, focused on giving young Nigerian girls scholarships and mentorship. She never returned to Nigeria in a rush. She waited. She studied harder. She worked part-time to save money. When she finally completed her degree, first-class honors, she walked across the graduation stage wearing the same shoes she bought at Yaba Market 2 years before. She didn't want to forget where she came from. That memory was her fire. When she boarded the flight back to Nigeria, it wasn't as a maid. It was as a woman invited to speak at the University of Lagos, sponsored by the British Council, with national TV covering the event. The convoy that picked her from the airport wasn't flashy, it was official. Branded with her NGO logo, carrying staff, volunteers, and media. Her face was now on banners across social media. Annabelle Chaiku returns home, championing the education of the forgotten girl. She asked her driver to slow down as they passed through Lekki. She wanted to see that house. That gate. That memory. It hadn't changed much. Still painted. Still proud. But now, quieter. Gloria was standing outside, pretending to be on a phone call. She knew they were passing. She had seen the banners. She had read the articles. She had seen the face of the girl she once called maid, now quoted by presidents. As Annabelle's car rolled past, their eyes locked, just for a second. Neither woman smiled. Neither waved. But Gloria looked away first. When Annabelle took the stage at Unilag, her voice trembled at first. Not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. My name is Annabelle Chaiku. I was once a housemaid in this city. I scrubbed the floors of people who thought I had no voice. But here I am. Not because they believed in me, but because I believed in myself. The crowd, students, lecturers, officials, erupted into applause. A few weeks later, the first scholarship from her foundation was awarded to a girl who lived just 3 streets from the Omatoso mansion. Her name was Adiz, a teenager who had dropped out of school after her father died. Annabelle personally handed her the acceptance letter. "I believe in you," she whispered. "Because someone should have believed in me." That night, back in her hotel room, Annabelle opened her journal and wrote, "The ones who mocked me gave me a gift. They taught me what it means to stand alone. I owe them thanks. But I owe myself everything." And as the lights of Lagos flickered outside her window, the girl who was once nobody smiled in quiet victory. She had not only returned, she had risen. While Annabelle's face began gracing billboards and radio interviews, the Omatoso household sank deeper into silence and sorrow. Vanessa, now 23, sat most days indoors, scrolling endlessly on TikTok, pretending her life hadn't unraveled. She refused to return to school, ashamed of the scandal around her plagiarism. The father of her child had vanished without a trace. She hadn't told anyone, but she often stared at the balcony railing and wondered if it would hurt or feel like freedom. Sandra, on the other hand, tried to mask her pain with parties and pills. Her Instagram was still active, still full of filtered smiles and brunch posts, but her eyes were hollow. Her second abortion had nearly killed her. No one knew. Not even her mother. She couldn't bring herself to look in the mirror anymore. Madame Gloria walked the mansion like a ghost. Her phone barely rang. Her business partners no longer returned her calls. Her former driver, Mr. Obinna, had now been hired by a rival firm, one run by Annabelle's NGO for logistics. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. In her quiet moments, Gloria replayed scenes in her head, the way Annabelle knelt and greeted her every morning, the way she read late into the night despite exhaustion, the way she never complained even when she was insulted. She remembered one evening when she found Annabelle crying quietly in the kitchen. She never asked why. She simply told her to finish mopping and go to bed. Now she wished she had asked. One morning, as rain pattered softly against the windows, Gloria opened the newspaper to a full-page article. From Maid to Mentor, How One Nigerian Girl Became a Global Voice for Education. The photo was of Annabelle standing between 2 presidents, the Nigerian president and the British Prime Minister, at a UN Youth Education Summit. Below was a quote from Annabelle. "They tried to bury me. But I wasn't a seed, I was a storm waiting to happen." Gloria slowly folded the paper. For the first time, she whispered her name. Annabelle. 3 years later, Annabelle stood at the grand opening of her education center in Ikeja, Lagos. The Chaikwa Foundation headquarters was not just a building, it was a symbol. Painted in soft earth tones, with high ceilings and glass halls,